Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Omicron variant is spreading through India and around the world. There are already close to 24 confirmed cases in India alone. Can we take refuge from the fact that this variant seems milder than previous ones, or is it only a matter of time before it becomes more lethal? Will the existing vaccines work against this new variant? Tonight on Viewpoint, I'll be speaking with two of the most foremost medical minds in the world. Dr. Angelique Coetzee is the scientist who broke this news to the world, and the very well-respected Dr. Ashish Jha from Brown University. Both these doctors will be joining us through the course of Viewpoint. But first, the story of Omicron so far. All right, Dr. Angelique Coetzee is part of the South African Medical Association. She was part of the team of scientists and doctors who first exposed the presence of Omicron, this new variant of the COVID-19 virus. She alerted the world about it. Thank you very much, Dr. Coetzee, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. First things first, tremendous work done by your team in letting the world know about this new variant. How do you, though, see the response of the rest of the world to the emergence of this new variant? Was it as you expected, or do you suspect there's been a bit of an overreaction, if you will?
If we look at what previous happened, when we detected the beta variant in South Africa, we also we also announced it to the world, and there was no pushback or nothing. It was accepted. Actually, England went. We were alerted, England or UK, and they then went back and say, okay, that beta variant is in our country as well. Mm-hmm. So when this happened, the South African scientists thought, it's the right thing to do. Let us alert the world, okay, but also tell the world that it's only now. We only saw it the last 72 hours, what the scientists on the genomic part of it, how they sequencing it.
Okay.
And it was clear that there's a lot that we don't know. Yes, we are concerned. We don't know at that stage whether it was fast spreading. We don't know the virulency of it. We don't know whether the PCRs can pick it up. There was a lot of, actually everything was a don't know. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, when they started to alert the world, we were already nearly a week into the clinical pictures that we are starting to see.
Yeah.
So when this knee-jerk reaction came from Britain, mm-hmm, we as the South African Medical Association at primary care level, we then said, this is unacceptable. It's here for a few days. At that stage, we even haven't seen any hospitalization on this.
All right. So when you discovered and when you announced to the world, you did say that at that stage, this was about 2 weeks ago or so, you hadn't seen any hospitalizations. But subsequently, I'm given to understand there have been a handful of hospitalization of cases of Omicron. Can you break it down for us in terms of how many hospitalizations you've seen over the last 2 weeks, and what is this as a proportion of the number of people who are testing positive?
That is extremely important. A very, very important question that you're asking. So if you look at, I'm just trying to see whether there's new data available. I still don't have the latest data available. It's not yet released. Mm-hmm. So if you look at, I know that yesterday's data showed, mm-hmm, that of the 11,500 people 500 plus people being tested positive in the whole of South Africa,
okay,
8,000 something were in Gauteng region, the province that we are in.
Okay.
And if I looked at the stats of the Gauteng region admissions yesterday, it was 40 in private sector and 41 in public sector. So if it's 10% increase in child admissions,
okay,
then you look and I say it is in the Gauteng region. Then you look at 10% of 81.
Okay, so that's about 8.
And of 81 people that has been admitted, if 10% is children, out of in the whole of Gauteng region, we know that was 8,000 plus people that was yesterday being diagnosed positive. So our positivity rate is 22%.
Yeah.
But the severity of the cases that we see at primary healthcare level hasn't really changed. We're not saying people are not sick at primary care level. What we're trying to say out there, it's mild cases. There's a difference between mild and severe. Severe, you have to admit. Mild, you can treat outside the hospital.
Okay, so that's good to know. So you're saying 10% of the cases are the ones who require hospitalization. So that's a relief. So much of the other cases, you're saying 90% of the cases are milder. But is there any evidence, Dr. Coetzee, to suggest that this new variant or what we're likely to see in the future are happening in places where there is a large population of people who are either unvaccinated or who are vaccinated?
It might be true that it can actually be anywhere. We have seen the breakthrough infections on people that's been vaccinated, and I think it's an important question. We have seen those patients coming into the surgeries because we sent out a message to the people out there, say, please come and get yourself tested. Please test. If you've got anything remotely like a sore throat or tiredness, myalgia, a sore body aches and pain, a headache, you just don't feel well for a day or two, please go and test. So now we are seeing these people go and test. So we get the data in. We see at primary healthcare because that's where you will normally see these patients coming in.
Yeah.
So the vaccinated people, their symptoms are very similar to the unvaccinated ones. But now you need to understand what we're trying to say here. We're trying to say that although you have lots of comorbidities, any age that we see that's been vaccinated, and my eldest vaccinated patient that I've seen is 82 years, they have mild symptoms. If they have not been vaccinated with their comorbidities, it could have been much worse. So the unvaccinated young people that normally come in first, the under 40s, yes, some of them are sick. I must say to you, this tiredness and body aches and headache is not a joke. It's quite severe, but it's not severe enough to let you be admitted in hospital or any of those, or need oxygen or any of that.
All right. All right, Dr. Angelique Coetzee, thank you so much once again for joining us and also letting the world know about the presence of this new variant, Omicron. But having said that, what we're seeing in terms of responses by governments around the world, including here in India, is to try and impose some kind of restrictions or additional tests on people who are coming in from the so-called at-risk countries. How may this response be different in light of whatever we've learned all through 2020 and 2021? Dr. Ashish Jha is the Dean of Brown University and one of the most renowned medical minds in the world. Thank you very much, Dr. Jha, for speaking with us. First things first, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to what Dr. Coetzee had to say about this new Omicron variant. Take us through what is the information that you have from the limited time that we've had to process this new variant, how it escapes certain tests, how it escapes potentially immunity in human beings. The general assessment from the WHO downwards has been that this is a much more transmissible variant, much more transmissible than Delta or Alpha, Beta, etc. before it, but at the same time, it is much less severe. Would that be a correct assessment according to you?
Yes, on the issue of transmissibility, all of the evidence we have right now suggests this is a very, very transmissible virus, that it causes, people both who have been vaccinated as well as people who are not vaccinated to have breakthrough infections. We do think that if you're vaccinated, you're going to have much more protection, but it's very clear already from the data that this is a very, very transmissible virus. And that means that we're going to see probably a large wave of Omicron really sweep across the world over the next couple of months. Now, on the issue of severity, there is some good news, and it's very early, and I don't want to overstate it, but there is early data out of South Africa, but also the few cases we're seeing, that it may be a bit milder, particularly for people who've been previously vaccinated, as well as people who've had recent infections. So that is the hope here, is that if it turns out to be pretty mild, it's not going to end up becoming a major problem, or it won't end up being as much of a problem, obviously, than if it is not mild. I think in both of those areas, there's a lot more data to get, particularly understanding how it affects vaccinated people. There's very little information, but I'm hoping we'll get more data in the next week or so.
So even though it is, at least up until now, whatever limited information we have, even though it's a milder version, in terms of the response that we've seen from governments and policymakers around the world, it's either travel bans or restrictions on flying or, extra tests that need to be done, both at the point of leaving a country and at the point of entering a new one. Do you reckon that this is the smart way to respond to this variant? It almost seems like we haven't learned much from what we went through in 2020 and in 2021.
Yeah, travel bans are the easy thing to do. And I understand why governments do them, because they need to show that they're doing something. The problem, of course, is that Omicron is in every continent in the world. It's in dozens of countries. It's probably in many more countries. They just haven't identified it yet. So it's not really clear how much travel bans will help. There is some evidence that travel bans can slow things down a little bit. But eventually the virus makes its way in. Much smarter are travel policies that look for testing and require vaccinations. Those are far more likely to be effective at slowing the spread than travel bans.
One thing we've seen in terms of policy response here in India is testing for people at airports, travelers who are coming in from these at-risk countries. Many are saying, having such a large number of people in an enclosed space like an airport may not be the smartest strategy to test and trace. How may you change this?
Yeah, I think you need a multi-pronged strategy on testing. What many countries are doing is requiring a negative test in the 24 hours before you get on an airplane. That has a lot of value. Second, I really do think we should be requiring vaccinations for people when they travel. I think, and if all the countries could agree on that, I think that would make an enormous difference. Mm-hmm. And then if you're going to do testing on the ground, of course, that's logistically very, very complicated to do it well. And that's why countries like the U.S. so far have not done that. I do think it can add value, but of course, it's very difficult to pull off.
All right, Dr. Ashish Jha from the Brown University, thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Thank you for your insights and your time. Meanwhile, the other big story that we're tracking here on Viewpoint has been almost a week now since President Ramnath Kovind formally repealed the 3 controversial farm laws. There appears to be some back and forth. The centre has now written a new letter to farmers assuring them that the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha will be represented in a committee that will decide on MSP, and that cases against farmers will be withdrawn once the protest is called off. But the farmers are still adamant, saying that there is no question of calling off the protest till the cases are withdrawn. The SKM will be meeting again tomorrow for a final decision on this issue. Remember, it's been more than 20 days since the Prime Minister went on national television on Gurpurab and announced the decision to repeal these laws.
कल 2 बजे करेंगे मीटिंग और ठोक कर करेंगे मीटिंग कल 2 बजे। प्रस्ताव ये था कि हम सारी बात मान लेंगे, आप उठ जाओ। मतलब भाई अजीब आदमी भी उठ जाओ, सारी बात मान लेंगे। ये 12 महीने से बैठाई क्यों रखे? एमएसपी पे भी बताई कि कमेटी बनाएंगे और लोग भी रखेंगे, संयुक्त मोर्चे की भी रखेंगे। स्पष्ट नहीं है, स्पष्ट बताओ ना कि क्या क्या आप करोगे, खोल कर बताओ उसमें, कल 2 बजे चर्चा करेंगे उसमें। केस प्रस्ताव ये है कि हम वापसी ले लेंगे, आप चले जाओ। बात कोई कर रहा है, चिट्ठी पे है, चिट्ठी पे कौन विश्वास कर ले भाई, चिट्ठी पे किसी में।
All right, so Rakesh Tikait and some other farmer leaders still holding out. There was a press conference by members of the representatives of the SKM a short while ago. They've decided to meet again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Many would say the farmers are being adamant, despite the fact that the Prime Minister himself came forth and announced on TV the decision to withdraw these laws. Subsequently, on the first day of Parliament, both in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha, these laws were withdrawn, and the President has also given his assent to it. It's been almost a week since that happened, and the farmers are still insistent on a couple of things. One, on MSP, they want their representatives, which again the government has agreed to, and B, they want these multiple cases that have been filed against farmers, both in Punjab and Haryana, as well, to be withdrawn. Arun Dhanta is joining us live from the Singhu border. The farmers, met once, I think, last week, then yesterday, then again today, and I'm given to understand they're going to meet again tomorrow. Many would say that they are being adamant now that the laws themselves have been repealed. Even the Parliament has passed the bill to repeal the law. The President has given his assent. Why then are they still stuck on being at Delhi's borders?
Well, Zaka, farmers have made it very clear. In fact, all the points in the proposal which has been given by the central government, they are not agreed with them. They are saying that the first one, which is of course of the MSP's committee, they are saying that why government has mentioned the name of farmer organizations apart from SKM in that. Those farmer organizations which central government wants to be part of this committee, they have not been part of our protest, and some of the farmer unions do not want the MSP, so therefore they should remove those other farmer unions from that committee. Only SKM's leaders will be part of it. Secondly, the second point in which government said that in principle agreement has been given by both Haryana and Punjab, that the compensation will be given to the families. They are saying that that should be given to them in written. Then only they will conclude their protest. And thirdly, about the criminal cases against the farmers. Now, in that proposal, government has said that when farmers will conclude their protest, then both Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, remember Haryana is a state where majority of the cases have been registered against farmers, will be taken by both the states. Now they are saying that till the time we don't have any assurance, any written assurance on that, we cannot trust government. On one hand, we'll conclude our protest, and secondly, if then state governments do not take the cases back, then the farmers will be in problems. So largely in all the points which is part of that proposal central government has given to the farmers, they have shown their reservation. They are saying that we'll sit tomorrow again at 2 p.m. By that time, we are expecting that central government will respond to us with an updated proposal.
All right, Arun, we'll leave it at that. Arun Dhanta there reporting for us from the Singhu border. Meanwhile, in battleground Uttar Pradesh, it was an East versus West clash today. Prime Minister Modi was in Gorakhpur to launch development projects worth 10,000 crore rupees. He launched a scathing attack on the rival Samajwadi Party over their trademark red cap. Prime Minister Modi said red topi is red alert, and even accused the Samajwadi Party of being terror sympathizers. In return, SP Chief Akhilesh Yadav held his first joint rally with the RLD's Jain Chaudhary in Meerut, where he accused the BJP of destroying their own.
आज पूरा यूपी भली भांति जानता है कि लाल टोपी वालों को लाल बत्ती से मतलब रहा है। ये लाल टोपी वालों को सत्ता चाहिए, घोटालों के लिए, अपनी तिजोरी भरने के लिए, अवैध कब्जों के लिए, माफियाओं को खुली छूट देने के लिए। और इसलिए याद रखिए, लाल टोपी वाले यूपी के लिए रेड अलर्ट है, रेड अलर्ट।
आज जब चुनाव आ रहा है तो इनके नेताओं की भाषा बदल रही है, और भाषा बदलने से ये चाहते हैं कि समाज में खाई पैदा हो। तो जो खाई पैदा करने वाले वही भाजपाई हैं।
जब भाजपा आई थी प्रदेश में और देश में, वो पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश से ही आई थी, और यहीं से जो है दूसरा रास्ता खुलेगा।
All right, let me go across to Pranshu Mishra, UP Bureau Chief, who's tracking this. This Lal Topi Wale attack by the Prime Minister, is it having resonance? Because I think he's touching upon all those issues that the SP rule was infamous for, whether it was corruption allegations, whether it was Mafia Raj, whether it was the deteriorating law and order situation, to try and draw this synonym, if you will, this parallel between Lal Topi and everything that went wrong in the SP rule. Is that having resonance on ground?
Yes, absolutely. See, this statement is not, out of just a thought. It is out of proper calculation. And BJP's primarily tagline or the attack line against Samajwadi Party had of hooliganism of Samajwadi Party workers, the mismanaged management, the lawlessness during the Samajwadi Party regime. And that is what line is being further, extended by Prime Minister. Now, very interestingly, Zaka, yesterday, Yogi Adityanath has unleashed an attack on similar lines, saying that any car, any SUV with a Samajwadi Party flag is carrying or is ferrying a gunda inside it. And today, Prime Minister has further extended it, saying that, the Lal Topi actually means hooliganism on the streets, and it only means about Lal Batti. So I think it is a well-calculated strategy on the part of the BJP, try and attack on those issues which have been the weak points for the Samajwadi Party, and which can, at the end of the day, can ring alarm bells with the common voters, because the voters have still not forgotten what happened in the past. And therefore, I think the BJP's attack on these lines is a part of a larger calculated strategy. It's not just, an attack out of thin air, but a part of a larger calculated strategy.
All right, Pranshu, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this story plays out and whether this picks pace in the run-up to the polls. The Lal Topi attack from the Prime Minister. We'll debate this at 9 p.m. as well. Meanwhile, more breaking news coming in. This time, amid a face-off between the TMC and the Congress over who will lead the opposition in 2024, Sena MP Sanjay Raut today met with Rahul Gandhi. He says that Rahul Gandhi should take the lead for the opposition in 2024. It's clear that Shiv Sena is entirely backing the Congress on this one. Pallavi Ghosh will be joining us in just a moment. But first, I want to play out the bite of Sanjay Raut.
हमने ये पहले से कहा है कि अगर कोई एक फ्रंट बनता है अपोजिशन का तो कांग्रेस के बिना वो संभव नहीं है। लेकिन उस बारे में जरूर चर्चा हुई है। राहुल गांधी मुंबई में आने वाले हैं जल्दी ही, एक प्रोग्राम भी उनका बन रहा है और मुझे लगता है कि ज्यादा बात करना यहाँ उचित नहीं। मैं उद्धव जी से बात करूंगा, कोशिश चल रही है और मैंने राहुल जी को कहा है कि आपको लीड लेना चाहिए इस बारे में।
All right, so Sanjay Raut and the Shiv Sena completely backing the Congress, and Rahul Gandhi. Mare Shakil is on the phone line with us. This is coming less than a week after Mamata Banerjee was in Mumbai, tried to meet Uddhav, could not, met Sanjay Raut and Aditya Thackeray, met with Sharad Pawar as well and said, where is the UPA? So some much needed support for Rahul Gandhi and the Congress. The question though is, as Mr. Raut says, Rahul Gandhi should take the lead. The problem is exactly that. Rahul Gandhi is reluctant to take the lead.
Yes, Zaka, and this is coming 2 days after Samna came out in support of both Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi. In fact, lauding the efforts of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, in particularly the Lakhimpur Kheri incident. What Sanjay Raut has said is critical and important because in that meet that was scheduled to take place between Uddhav Thackeray and Mamata Banerjee, that did not really happen, Zaka. And Mamata Banerjee had met Aditya Thackeray and Mr. Rawat there. And thereafter, that very, very controversial statement that came from her was, where is the UPA? Now for Sanjay Raut to travel all the way to Delhi, and of course the parliament is in session. He met Rahul Gandhi sometime back, and he said that he has communicated the wishes certainly of Uddhav Thackeray that Rahul Gandhi should take a lead. For all this while, we have seen how the TMC has been very critical of Rahul Gandhi in particular, the Gandhis in general, saying that how they have been largely reluctant in leading this opposition front and how they are not capable anymore. They do not have that fire in the belly. Now for the Shiv Sena to openly back its alliance partner of Mahavikas Aghadi, and the manner in which Sanjay Raut has done so is certainly going to send a message to other allies of the Congress party, whether it remains to be seen whether they'll be coming out openly now in favor of the Congress leadership. All
right, so some much needed support coming in for the Congress party from other opposition parties, in this case the Shiv Sena. All right, before we wrap up, a quick reminder, please join us for India's first telethon on vaccination. It's going to happen on the 12th of December at 12 noon across the News 18 network channels, including here on CNN News 18. That's December 12th, 12 noon onwards. I'll catch you again at 9 p.m. with prospects.